Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this very last session of the marketing conference. Martin Bickel, who was supposed to be the presenter today, regrets very much that he can't be with us today. And I do so too because I have to take over from him on short notice. So please forgive me for any deficits of the presentation and for the fact that it's not him but me who's going to represent Goethe University today. Much more prepared than me are my co-panelists here, Ms. Schmidt and Dr. Mantas, who will present themselves in a minute. We will be talking about the city and the university interconnections. And as a matter of fact, I would start with a short overview on why we suggested this topic to DAAD. After that, my dear colleagues will give you more insights in what they do in Greifswald and Lyon, respectively. And this should give you some ideas about what you can do in terms of cooperation between cities and universities if you're not active so far, or you can reevaluate what you've been doing so far. Now, the reasons why we suggested this topic to DAAD is that universities boast with their locations, and cities boast with their universities or their institutions of higher education. But there is very often no systematic cooperation. And this is why we're interested. How can we improve this? How can we benefit from each other? I promised you an overview about the development of place marketing, and I will fulfill this promise. It started early in the 20th century, and it increased in competition from the 1960s onwards. Competition was a key factor for the development of slogans. But city-university collaboration in marketing started in the 1980s, roughly. First, many cities and universities made up the mind about how they could improve the product, so to speak. That means, how could housing be provided for students from overseas, for example? How could the link between the university and the immigration could be improved? It was only later on that there was some kind of cooperation when it came to messages. Cities came up with messages like, the city is a safe and exciting place to live, and so is the university. Or, our city is not just a cultural and economic center, but also a center of science and education. Think about Göttingen. Every time you pass the station, you will see City of Science. If you pass the city by train, you will see the sign. It also says, this is rather a combined message already, the university and city are open, diverse, and multicultural place that educate world citizens. So it is very clear that the student doesn't stay inside campus all the time, but is very much involved in the city activities and should be involved in the city activities also by internships and the like. Now, some cities are small, some cities are big, some universities are small, some universities are big. If you look at Tübingen, for example, it would be a provincial city without the university. And in other cases, universities are rather very small in a very big city. So it depends very much on the approach. Now, this is the first short case study. Rotterdam is a city which has cooperated with not only the university, but also with the port and with an agency in order to promote each other a little bit. They had, of course, different target groups. The city was aiming at residents, the port was aiming rather at investors, and the city council was aiming at tourists, while the university, of course, was aiming at students. The agency provided coordination and marketing experience, and what they did was some kind of network approach. This means they cooperated loosely with each other, and they used a small budget. So everybody was interested, more or less, in their own target group, but they decided to cooperate on a low level. The second case study, sorry, this is the wrong direction, is the Study Adelaide campaign, which already shows that this was very much focused on the city of Adelaide in Australia. And Adelaide is not a first choice destination, neither as a city nor as a place for higher education. So because they have to compete with Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and so on. So it needed some investment. That's what at least the city and the university decided to do. And with a budget of €2 million annually, they formed a team made of state government, city council, universities, and colleges to improve their image. And it worked out quite well. If you think about the Australian universities, you know that many of them have a lot of students from overseas, and they depend very much on the income which they generate in this way. With €2 million, you can do a lot. And they relied on e-marketing in the first place, but also on agents. They invited agents from abroad to come to Adelaide. They showed them around, and they relied on them spreading the word in other places in the world. And actually, in a very competitive market, they managed to get 10 or 15% to gain more students, gain 10 to 15% faster the student population than other universities. Now, here is what they did in terms of internet. In terms of e-marketing in the first place, it was the website which was most important, apparently. And it focused on 3 aspects which are important for the potential student. That is the university itself. What does it offer in terms of degree programs and so on? Then housing. Where do I stay during my time in Adelaide? And thirdly, work. Because apparently a lot of students want to stay on after they graduate and want to get a job in Australia. Okay. To summarize, we can say that there are different kinds of city-university collaborations. Some cooperate whenever need arises. This is the very low level, actually. It is the kind of thing like, oh, there's a delegation coming from overseas. It's composed of people from the city council of city X and University Y. So we have to approach the people in our city council and make up an interesting program for them. So both parties do their best to make it happen, and after it's over, they say, okay, it's done. And everybody goes back to its own desk, his or her own desk, and they don't continue working on a joint project which is more solid, more sustainable. This is what Martin calls the ad hoc cooperation. I think most of us know this kind of thing, and when it comes to project-based cooperation, it is more intense, and it is more durable, but still limited. It is not a joint logo or anything like that. It is not a joint substantial approach which would last for a very long time. But it's rather, we want to improve this and we want to market it afterwards. This is just one aspect which is important for both parties, maybe. So the third level, the highest level, is a joint agency with a long-term commitment from both sides. Of course, if both parties chip in money for a longer period of time, it means that there has to be an outcome. It is much more than a short-term commitment. Now, we were talking about cities, but the scale could be much larger. All of you know BILAT, for example, the Bavarian organization who promotes universities all over Bavaria. And it can be in a city-state like Singapore. It can be even a country, right? Okay. This is the last slide, and it's on networks between cities and universities. Here you can see that some universities and cities already joined forces. You have the Unitown mainly in Italy. Its focus is increasing competitiveness, vitalizing the city economy. The focus is on the economy, but universities play a certain role in it. And the other one is the e-Universities with a C, a network of 14 medium-sized cities and their universities. And their approach is rather holistic. As you can see, there are 5 domains: local, regional economy, internationalization, students and city life, attractiveness and marketing, science and society. It might be worthwhile approaching these universities if you're these organizations if you're interested. They are open to new members, and they are also open to informal consultation. If you want to approach them before you approach your city council, it may be helpful. I don't know, we haven't tried. We are cooperating in Frankfurt with the city council. We could do more, I think, and maybe my colleagues do more. They will take over now and present their experiences. Thank you very much.
And I would actually like to start with this map. That's the official university map that was used until, I would say, about 3 years ago. And when I started at the University of Greifswald as the head of the international office, one of my first missions was actually to literally put Greifswald on the map. Because when I was trying to work with this map, the further you get away from Germany, of course, people are absolutely confused. They don't even understand, like, what's the sea and what's the country and where's Europe and what's that up there? And so I think if you look at marketing tools and, I mean, design-wise, it's very beautiful, but it's not very effective, actually. It's very difficult to understand what this is supposed to mean. But this was used in publications around 2013. Okay, so just back to this. This is what we started with. And one of the things, of course, is where is this place situated? And then also, how do you get there? And then if you look at our infrastructure, it's not really, let's say, it's not really targeted at bringing people to Greifswald. It's a bit difficult to get, it's not that far from Berlin and Hamburg, but the train services are being cut every year, so it's getting less easy to get there, or more difficult, let's put it this way. And at the same time, there is an airport by Rostock, which is not connected by a shuttle service. Now it's connected by a shuttle service, but there are hardly any planes anymore. So thinking internationally, it's really interesting to actually get partners to come and visit. Not talking about students yet, because it's a challenge, and to even explain to them how to get there. And then at the same time, now they are having this huge construction work outside of Berlin. So a train ride that usually was 2 hours, where you could say, oh, you know, you're coming from Australia, you're going to be in Berlin, just hop on the train, you're going to be in Greifswald in 2 hours, now takes almost 4. And that's for the next 3 years. And if they close Tegel and move everything to BER, then, you know, I think that's the end. Because then we'll just use Poland and Sweden, and we're not going to use any German infrastructure anymore, I think. So just to give you a little bit of an insight of what we're working with, and, you know, if I talk to American colleagues about this, then they sometimes say, oh yeah, you know, we're in the middle of Illinois, we have shuttle service to Chicago. So they have someone driving people back and forth for 4.5 hours. But, you know, we're a German university, so we don't have a shuttle service, neither for our researchers, nor for our members, nor for our students. So just to keep that in mind when you're trying to put a university on the map. And even if it's been there for centuries, it's sometimes very difficult to really locate it and to really bring people there. Then, of course, there are different parties involved when making this university or other universities more known. And this is the campaign, the current campaign by our Landesmarketing, so to say, by the state. And as you can see, the map is just as informative. If you if you know where Mecklenburg-Vorpommern is, you know where this is. If you don't, then you're just as lost. The emphasis is totally on the beauty and the beaches. You always have this little Strandkorb. I don't even know whether there's an official translation for that, in everything they use. And they actually take this Strandkorb with them when they go places. Yeah? And so one of the first things we were trying to tell them that, yes, it's very beautiful that we're close to the beaches, but maybe for international students, that's a plus, but it's not the reason for them to choose a certain location. It's nice that it's there, but it's not the only reason. So maybe we have to put the emphasis somewhere else. And what I wanted to show you, but I can't right now, is the campaign they just tried to start. I don't know if anyone heard of this. It was quite a scandal because it got stopped last minute. The weekend after North Rhine-Westphalia decided that they are going to start introducing tuition fees. The Landesmarketing wanted to start a campaign that was called Oben ohne, where you can study in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern Oben ohne. Yeah. So the image isn't visible here right now, See, that's the idea of what the Landesmarketing is doing, and it was really stopped last minute by all of the diversity managers of the state and by the rectors, and now there's this, we have a new Ministerpräsidentin for the first time, and of course she isn't very amused with this whole, actually my colleagues and me, we are hoping for a new Landesmarketing that's going to help us eventually. And when we were talking with them about developing maybe an international part to this campaign, all they said, well, there is one page in English and we have a translation. So the original campaign, I don't know if you've heard of this, is Studieren mit Mehrwert. And here you have See Your Future, Study in MV. So their idea really of having an international campaign is, okay, it's in English. And so what we're doing currently with the other universities and universities of applied sciences in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern is trying to convince them that there's more to be done than simply translating something into English. Oh yeah, maybe you saw it briefly. Yeah, there was actually even a radio spot that was going out, and don't really want to listen to that. Then there is a campaign by the city and the student interest groups and the university. And this has been going on since 2014. It's called Heimathafen Greifswald. I don't know if there's a translation for Heimathafen, but Oh, very good. And it's aimed at our first semesters, and it asks them to really make Greifswald their port of call and become Greifswald citizens. Because there's a deal with the state that if more than 50% of the student influx into the state actually becomes citizens of Greifswald, then the university gets €1,000 for each of these students. And this money, again, is split between the student interest groups and the university. And they then can do interesting things with this. So some of the the Fachschaften, develop tutorials with this, or they have like a Erste Woche or something special that they do with just this money. So this is a campaign that seems to be working very well. The students get coupons, and then some of them are invited on this boat. This is the Greif. This is the sailing boat for vessel for Greifswald. And so there are a lot of things connected with this. There are parties connected with this. So that's a campaign to really make students who come to Greifswald citizens and Greifswald students. This is the campaign by the university for the non-students. So for the school students, so if they go to fairs and promote Greifswald, then there are three postcards like this, one with Berlin, one with Hamburg, and one with Szczecin, which is our closest neighboring town in Poland. And this has been going for a couple of years, and actually everyone thinks it's very cute, and it seems to be working very well. There's also trains and in Hamburg, in Berlin, and in the regional trains, there's advertisement, there's other slogans that are being used, but this is probably the one that's most prominent. So when you look at what the city and the university doing together, then you can see three different themes. They are trying to promote Greifswald as a place that's old and traditional. That's why you have the brick stone. Yeah, this is the famous ruin in Eldena that was painted by Caspar David Friedrich over and over again. And so it's basically the first multiple of the world. So we really stress that fact that we have this ruin, and we also have Caspar David Friedrich. We might not have Beethoven, but Caspar David Friedrich. We have this image at the bottom that's very typical Greifswald too, and it's exactly what Caspar David Friedrich painted back then. And so this is something everyone can agree on. on the red brick, on the history, and on the city and its biggest sun. And then, of course, all of the maritime images, the ancient harbor, and all of what's connected with that. So that's a lot that they use in common. They really use the same images and languages for everyone. It's historic, it's traditional, it's by the Baltic Sea, it's maritime, it has a big quality of life. Yeah, so it's not that much about the beaches anymore, maybe also because we're not right on the beach, it's 20 minutes. But it still kind of looks at the maritime imagery. One thing that we're not doing yet, really, is doing this for internationals. So this is what's happening between the city and the university, and it's basically just happening by chance. They do meet from time to time, so our Pressesprecher and the tourism manager from Greifswald, they do meet, but it's not as if we have this international or at all marketing group that really thinks about what should Greifswald present itself outside of the city. So it's more or less just tradition that this is what Greifswald is being represented with. And I think there's a lot that can be done if you did it even a bit more targeted, if you really looked at what you can do with this. The second thing about this is that it's targeted as students or tourists, but the fact that Greifswald is also a place of research doesn't play a role at all. So you don't have any reference to it really, and it's really targeted at the students. And again, international, if I ask about international aspects in their marketing strategy, it's, yeah, we have this one page in English, yeah, and we should do more in English, but that's basically it. Yeah, for the tourists as well, there's nothing in Polish, even though we're so close by the border, even though we know the tourists are coming from there. It's just nothing that's happening at this point. Oh, here it's working. Yeah. So what they want to portray is that Greifswald is, they say, jung, klug und bunt. And if I try to translate that into young, smart, and then I don't even know whether they actually mean colorful or whether they mean diverse. I'm not quite sure, and I don't think they know either. So that's what they are trying to do. Yeah. So it's colorful at least. So at this point, we were trying to think about doing our international marketing, of course, and if the city and the university press relations office isn't really our partner, or they are our partner, but if they aren't supporting us, we have to come up with our own material, and that's what we did. So we hired a student worker to design a campaign for us, and she looked at the same imagery, basically, so she went back to the maritime, of course, but she tried to make it a bit more interactive with that paper boat, and also the boat as a symbol of going abroad, but also coming into the city. And so it's both ways. By now, we don't only use the boat, we sometimes use paper planes as well. We're thinking about using cranes in the future, but we're always using this imagery. And we basically put it on everything. If you, in the center, you have our student handbook, and it's flippable, and it's on one side it's studying in Greifswald, on the other side it's living in Greifswald. So yes, we do know that these things go together, and we try to put them in this. Also, the little giveaways are meant to be something to keep people active. So there's a little compass to show them the way when they are out there. There's that little box for students to take their sandwiches around. So it's really to stress the fact of activity and movement and going somewhere. And we bought these old suitcases that we use to present all of this at fairs. So it has this little traditional piece to it as well. Other parts of the imagery we introduced are the corkboard, so that students have the idea of, keeping their memories together somehow, and also sometimes we use the chalkboard in alluding to the university, really. And then this is the map that we're using nowadays, at least for international affairs, where we really say, okay, Greifswald is not at the end of the world. If we want to show the connection to Germany, we use this sometimes to also show why it's important to come to Germany, that there's so much diversity here and there's so much to see. And then we use this to show that once you're in Greifswald, you're actually in the middle of Europe and everything is there. And Berlin is on it, and Hamburg is on it, but there are other places that are more important. The second thing we had to look at is the size of the city, and we use that as well for marketing, where we say, okay, you have this traditional medieval town, it's really easy to navigate, it's very traditional, it's very cute, you can do everything, don't worry. So we're not really looking at students who want to go to bigger cities, but if we look at this, then we're trying to find students who are interested in this academic feel of a small town that's been academic for centuries, and that's easy to navigate. And maybe even if you think of the parents feel comfortable because it's easy. And then we try to say, okay, but then of course there's not just the medieval part, the ancient part, but there's also the whole modern part to it, all the natural sciences, the huge modern buildings and the university clinics, and it's all up to standards and very high technology and so on. We also try to show the connection to the whole research network, but I have to admit that we haven't really found more visible or a better image for that yet. So if someone has an idea for that, I'd be very happy. Because of course that's something that we should stress more. Then we try to stress, of course, that even in a small city you have all of these different cultural events. This way show, okay, it's all there, even though you're at this northern end of Germany, maybe you're in the middle of everything, you're in the middle of Europe, you can travel everywhere, there's enough culture, there's enough academics, there's enough research, it's worth coming. So that's the idea behind all of this. And we did our first Erasmus Staff Week 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we actually targeted other universities that might have similar problems. We invited colleagues from universities that are not the most known all over the world and not in the most prominent spots, and talked about exactly these issues. And actually they have similar approaches to how to deal with this. Now, what else are we doing? Because we don't have a huge budget and we don't have a huge team for international marketing, of course. However, we have a team that's very creative and young. They wanted to work more with social media, and they started working with Instagram and Facebook. And I'm not going to go into much detail because we had this over the conference before, but actually that's what they are doing. These are the most liked images of last year, so you can see that they are quite diverse. There's some buildings and some things that are happening in Greifswald. So it's a very colorful potpourri of things. It's not targeted at one group, but at everyone who wants to be internationally active. So we're not just targeting incomers or future incomers or partners. We're also trying to target our outgoers so that they think, okay, this is interesting, I want to go abroad. And so we try to really have this very colorful. So of course you have the regular student events in there, but you also have suggestions from us, information what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. You have images from the area to just show the beauty of the region. And then you have almost like correspondence from abroad that send pictures from abroad and short texts. And with this, we're also trying to include our scientists and researchers and others from the university. On the right side, you have 2 colleagues who were on teaching exchange. So we're not only trying to target the students here. And as you can see, we also do this from events that we that we think might be interesting for our international community, like yesterday's keynote speech, where we just say, okay, this is where we're presently and this is what we're doing. Currently, we have about 2,000 followers, and for a university of 10,000 students, that seems to be working quite well. We have 250 on Instagram right now, and the key demographic, as you can see, is mainly women between 25 and 34, and then followed by the other demographic group. And with that, again, we are targeting students. And that's not really what we want to do exclusively. So that's one of the things I want to work at, that we open this even more up so that other groups within the university or out there are interested in following us. However, what we've noticed is that Greifswald International, that's what it's called, has become really a key player in our international community. It's sometimes very difficult to bring people together physically, to really bring them to one table, but we do notice that people connect through Greifswald International, and that they see what's happening in the city, that they see what's happening internationally, that they are very interested in what's happening, and it's not just people who are connected to the university, but people from all walks of the city. So there are all the interest groups who work with, let's say, with refugees. There are other interest groups. There are politicians. There are people from different parts of economy that are just part of Greifswald International or share our events. And so it's really becoming a platform for everything connected internationally in Greifswald. And with that, of course, it's more visible to the outside. One thing we're thinking about is how to increase the readership or the participation even more. And one thing I'm not sure about, and maybe someone has solutions for this, is really how to engage our partners who are not prone to using social media, because it's always, the partner in the international office over there, basically, who has to share it in the first place. We can't go everywhere. And so if you have a partner who's just not looking at Facebook and Instagram, then, it's not working. And the second challenge right now is keeping this going without more personnel. And the third thing we're looking at is really how to engage our guest researchers and our German researchers and everyone to make this community even more inclusive of everyone who's active in Greifswald.
Thank you very much. Are there some short questions at this point in time? Or can we continue with Dr. Matta's presentation, please? I didn't get that. Could you speak up or use the mic, please?
You presented this campaign of the town of Greifswald for the students to become citizens. Has it been a success, demographically speaking? Yeah.
And actually, it engages the Fachschaften and the students from all areas because they want the money. So and again, they are the best multiplier. So if they tell their Kommilitonen, you become a citizen, then that's much better than the Pressesprecher telling them.
All right. More questions? Not now, but please later on. Then we can continue with Dr. Matta's presentation on Lyon.
Okay. So hello, everybody. Thanks for the organizers to inviting me here, and thanks to the University of Frankfurt for the invitation. And actually, the fact that I'm here right now is actually a sort of result of the interaction between city and university, because Lyon is a sister city with Frankfurt. And we have been participating on several visits with our mayor And so we were visiting the mayor of Frankfurt, and that's how actually on the institutional level, the interaction with Frankfurt University has been fostered. So, and at that time, we have been talking about the promotion of university and city and the interaction. So thanks again to this sisterships and as an example of the cooperation between a city and university. So I'm in charge of international relations of the Université de Lyon. I would say that there is actually 2 challenges for me in terms of the promotion of the university itself, and it has been also pointed out by my previous colleague, and the promotion of the French university system, which is very complex, and I would not be able to do it within the 20 minutes that I will talk. You know, we would probably need to stay here together about a week to maybe get a better understanding of what the university is, and I will say a few words about that. And the other challenge is the promotion of the location itself, because Lyon, and by the way, who was already in Lyon? Oh, okay, good. So So it's about 50%. That's very good. So I don't need to say on the map too much where we are located, but the challenge is that we are always the second city. In terms at when you go international and you talk about France, well, people say, yes, France, Paris. And that's it. Well, France is more than Paris. And that's a challenge, actually, for us, not necessarily within the Europe, but within the overall globe. And the mayor of Lyon and the local authorities, the mayor and also the president of the regional government, they are doing a quite impressive job in terms of promoting the region, promoting on the economical scale, showing that actually it's a city and region where it's good to invest, where it's good to live, and where the whole environment is very open and internationalized. And the mayor itself is sort of talking about the city diplomacy rather than diplomacy of countries, and the city diplomacy within the Europe. So one of the challenges is make from Lyon an important European city. Of course, we will not be a capital of France. It's Paris, no doubt about that. But the idea is to make it the message stronger. Of course, I could say a few words about, you know, how Lyon is well located, and I like the image you showed that Berlin was a suburb. Sometimes when I show this map, I'm saying, well, you know, you need to take the TGV to go to Paris. It takes a little bit less than 2 hours. So it's it can be said that Paris is the suburbs of Lyon, you know, the suburban TGV you can take to get there. So we have a common points there. It's so located also close to the sea, close to the mountains. I could show you the images of people skiing, and you know, the students, they like that because then within 2 hours they can get to the Alps and be on nice skiing trips. So, but I will not do that. I will concentrate more on other aspects of the promotion challenges. I was telling you that how difficult it may be to promote the French institutional system, and here are logos of actually member institutions of the Université de Lyon, because Université de Lyon should be understood as a consortium of different education institutions and research institutions in Lyon. Sometimes one could say, you know, for example, Star Alliance, right? With Lufthansa, with other, well, I can talk about the Sky Team, Air France, you know, and so it's Université Lyon, it would be sort of Sky Team for the Lyon players on the educational scale. Which is important thing is to point out there is also this player, which comes from Saint-Étienne, which is a city which is located 60 kilometers out of Lyon. But in order to get a promotion of the University of Saint-Étienne internationally, well, they accepted to be under the brand of Université de Lyon. Because when you go to Shanghai, for example, and you want to say, well, come to Saint-Étienne to study, so that, how do I get there? Well, you need to fly to Lyon, right? So the entrance is Lyon. So the fact that we are called Université de Lyon is at its own sense. And of course, I will not go into details about these universities and these grandes écoles. That's where the difficulty is, and that's where the challenge for the promotion is. And we have associated members, which are, there is a sort of ecosystem. So you can see that there is a challenge for this promotion, and the Université de Lyon, the unique brand, is one important step for doing a promotion on a scale of the Lyon metropolitan area, because altogether it's about more than 130,000 students. So it's really a strong community. It's 200 research laboratories. So the promotion is not an easy task, although we can also show these kind of nice pictures of our member institutions sitting just on the bank of the Rhone River. So in order to strengthen the promotion, we have joined the promotional approach, the territorial promotional approach that is called Only Lyon. And the Only Lyon comes from, Lyon, and then they were playing with the word Lyon, and so they come up with Only Lyon. That has a sort of a sense. Of course, we don't want to have it as an exclusive sense of Lyon. Only Lyon, like only Paris, right? We don't want to go to there. But it's a sort of, by the paradox, playing on the marketing approach. And this marketing approach has been funded in 2007. And first of all, already you can see that, in the logo, there is this, the lion, the red lion. And the red lion actually now also appears in the logo of the university. So there has been a connection in terms of logos between the territory and the city. There are other examples of the branding, and yesterday I was in Berlin, and so we were talking, of course, about the Be Berlin. I have to say that actually when I was there just one day, but going through the streets, I have not really seen the Be Berlin as it is here on the streets. Whereas, for example, if you go in Lyon, this is a new museum. It's just on the tip of the Saône and Rhone River. There is always this Only Lyon put somewhere within the city, and people go there, they take photos, and it's contributing to the promotion of the city and of the territory. So there are examples. There is the I Amsterdam, Copenhagen with the open thing there. So the cities are trying to do that. And what we have, what I will talk a little bit about is how did we get together with the branding. So there is an ecosystem for the Only Lyon. And it's important to know that the métropole, the city, the airport is a member of the branding approach. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry is member. The Tourisme et Congrès, so all the tourism approach, the promotion is a part. Université, so is a founding member. So there is a steering committee that meets 3 times per year. And so, for example, I'm sitting on the committee for the Université de Lyon. It's quite impressive to, be on the table with the director of the airport and actually talk about the challenges for the for the marketing. And then, of course, it was already said, there has to be a sort of target strategy. You know, what are the public you are targeting? And it's important then to have all together sitting at the table and to define the target community. This is also very important because those are the private partners. They are not members, they are partners of this approach. And they are private companies, they are sponsors, so they contributing to the budget of the Only Lyon branding approach. And you can find, for example, the airline Emirates, the Air Canada, there, because those are the airlines where we have a direct flight from Lyon to Dubai, we have a direct flight from Lyon to Montreal, and so they are, of course, interested in participating this approach, because then they get, of course, travels on their flights. And, of course, on the other side, for the city, it's a good thing to have the airlines, because then it brings not only tourists, but it brings the investors, it brings the researchers, it brings the people who will be working at, for example, R&D centers that will be located in Lyon. And in this sense, there is a joint approach between the university and the city. And myself, I've been participating several times this past 5 years on the delegations of the mayor of the city or the president of the regional government. When they go abroad and they promote the territory, they need the university, and they don't want the 20 presidents or 20 directors. They want 1 or 2 people from the Université de Lyon, from the consortium, to go there and to show how the city is attractive, not only from the fiscal point of view or tourist point of view, but also from the university and research point of view. So there are sort of targeted, not only targeting community, but also targeted places. So there were 8 specific targets, and you can see the Frankfurt there as a sister city. There is a Shanghai, which is actually a sister city for the region, because the sister city of Lyon in China is Guangzhou, but the interaction is much stronger with Shanghai. We do target also Paris, but we target New York, San Francisco, Sao Paulo, and then the cooperation on the university level is, of course, facilitated with Shanghai, with Montreal, with Sao Paulo. If I were talking about the international strategy of Université de Lyon, you would find some of these places in the strategy. Yeah, what I forget to say is that within the whole thing, there is a network of ambassadors, and the Only Lyon have their own ambassadors. So far there's about 24,000 ambassadors, 400 international, 4,000. So it's 4,000 international ambassadors. The others are the ambassadors within the city or within the region and in France. Within the ambassador network, there is, or how to foster the ambassador network, there is an approach that is called Only Lyon International Student. So it's sort of label, and so we work with the Only Lyon approach. When there are students that are coming to Lyon, they have a badge, they will get the international, Only Lyon International Student, and after they stay, when they go back, we hope them to become the ambassadors of the Only Lyon. So there is the ambassador is the second stage for the international student. There are some events that are co-organized with the Only Lyon. There's the Nuit des étudiants du monde. There is a student welcome desk that is organized together with the Only Lyon approach, but the student welcome desk is operated and managed by the university, but with the support of the branding approach. On this picture from Lyon, I would just like you concentrate on this building here next to the traditional skyscraper, which was the only skyscraper till like 5 years ago, there is a smaller skyscraper here. Now, if you go today to Lyon, there will be one more, much bigger skyscraper, but this one will have its own importance on next slides. So there is a communication plan associated with the Only Lyon approach that choose some personalities, because the promotion is based on the ambassadors, it's based on the persons. So the personalities are actually pictured here. They are diverse, so to show the opening, the international opening of the city. And then they, they have pictures showing some of the, let's say, key attractive points of Lyon. So here you can see Paul Bocuse. The restaurant is the restaurants on overall. Lyon pretend to be the gastronomic capital of the world. That's I don't want to insist on that. There is also pictures like this, because there is every year on December 8th there is a light festival. Lyon is about 1.5 million people. On December 8th we are 4 million people at the city. And of course, it's also insisting on the beauty of the city. But within this personality-based campaign, we were approached at the university to choose between our international researchers, people that got pictured and got involved in this official campaign, and then of course they are promoting the research and university key points of the city, and then there is a targeted places for showing these pictures. So they are, and you go on a Bellecour, the main square, they will be shown there, but also they were showing them in different airports, for example, in Paris airport. But there was one campaign that was done in the cooperation with the Emirates fleet, and there was a movie when you get on the plane, when you are sitting and you have your screens in between. So before your movie, there is sometimes some kind of promotional clips. So those photos, they were shown for 3 months on all Emirates flights. You have been talking a little bit about the social media, so the Only Lyon has integrated them quite fully. So they already counted 250 million views of the whole campaign and the approach. So it has been quite a big success in terms of a follow-up. Of course, there has to be, and the Only Lyon has a dedicated team for that. Well, I was showing you before the smaller skyscraper. So on 27th floor, there is a sky room that is dedicated to Only Lyon approach, and the founding members can use it to welcome delegations, have meeting with students, even some workshops or meetings. And of course, it's very nice to see and oversee the Lyon from the 27th floor. So here again, the picture from the sky room. But since we are talking about university, the surroundings of Lyon, there are some interesting places to visit. There is a CERN. There is some, specific industrial, let's say, places where we can bring, with the help of the Only Lyon approach, people to show, what is the let's say, the strengths of the city. And that's my last picture here. So those are, let's say, our metropolitan and regional partners. The Only Lyon, on the promotional level, is playing a really important role. And so if you have any questions, you can ask. And for the 50% who have not yet been in Lyon, so you should come. And the 50% who have been there, you should come again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is really worth going to Lyon. Questions? We have 5 minutes left. Please don't hesitate. Yes?
On your slides, you have two campaigns running, a Digital Lyon and Only Lyon.
Yeah.
Maybe you can comment?
Actually, the Only Lyon is the brand. It's not a logo. It's a slogan. And within the Only Lyon, there is the slogan for the campaign is addicted to Lyon.
And that's just for the ambassadors, or?
No, it's for the campaign, the communication campaign itself. So the ambassadors, they are ambassadors of the Only Lyon because they get addicted to Lyon.
Thank you. More questions? Everybody's hungry, I guess, but maybe...
Because, of course, addicted to the food, not to other things.
Actually, if there are no more questions, I just want to say that Goethe University also works with their sister cities. We look in our strategic partnerships at the city and the universities. We try to actually combine forces and to develop projects which are relevant for the city and the university. This would also be another approach. Maybe there are some more comments from your side before we end this session? No? No more questions? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.